The boardroom lights flickered against the polished glass walls as employees rushed in for the morning meeting. But no one noticed the janitor kneeling in the hallway, fixing a broken floor panel with a small screwdriver. No one except the CEO, Adrian Shaw, who stopped, eyed him with irritation, and scoffed loud enough for everyone to hear. "Maybe stick to sweeping floors," Adrian muttered. "Leave the thinking to people who actually belong here." The janitor, Daniel Cruz, didn't respond. He simply lowered his head, tightened the last screw, and stood up quietly. His uniform was faded, his shoes worn. But his eyes carried something deeper than anyone cared to see. Something tired. Something brilliant. Something hiding. He walked away, pushing his cart toward the storage room, unaware that by the end of this week, everything about his life and Adrian's life would change forever. Daniel wasn't always a janitor. He once built machines that people said were impossible. But life, as it often does, had its own plans. After his wife passed away suddenly, he became a single father to his little girl, Maya. She was only 5 then, fragile and grieving. Daniel quit his engineering research position to care for her, taking the only job that offered stable hours at night, janitorial work at Shaw Innovations. For 3 years, he worked in silence, keeping his brilliance hidden, while Maya battled asthma and medical bills tightened around their lives like a vice. Every night, after she fell asleep, he scribbled ideas in worn notebooks, designs for energy efficiency devices, automation systems, and one idea he believed could change the world if only someone would listen. But no one saw him as anything more than the janitor. Especially Adrian. That same morning, as Daniel finished cleaning the research lab, he overheard 2 engineers whispering in frustration. "The prototype failed again," one said. "The CEO expects results by Friday. We can't even figure out what's wrong." Daniel paused before leaving. He knew the model they were working on. He had studied it months ago whenever he passed by during his shift. A flaw in the cooling module, tiny, but fatal to the entire system. He walked over gently. "Sorry to interrupt," he said softly. "I think the cooling chamber isn't dispersing heat evenly. If you adjust the airflow vents." The younger engineer cut him off. "We're not taking advice from a janitor. Please go." Daniel nodded, embarrassed. "Of course. Sorry." He left quickly. But as he walked down the hall, he passed Adrian again. "You really think you're some kind of genius?" Adrian scoffed. "Do you lecture the engineers now too?" Daniel simply whispered, "I'm just trying to help, sir." Adrian shook his head dismissively, but something in Daniel's tone lingered longer than he expected. That night, Maya had a severe asthma attack. Daniel rushed her to the emergency room, tears burning behind his eyes as he held her trembling hand. The doctor told him that she needed a new medication and possibly home monitoring equipment, both too expensive for Daniel's budget. But he didn't care. He would work double shifts. Triple. Anything for his daughter. After she stabilized, he brought her home, wrapped her in a blanket, and watched her sleep. In the soft warm light of the kitchen, he pulled out his notebook and stared at the design he had been perfecting for years, a breakthrough energy model that could power entire buildings with a fraction of the cost. "If I could just get someone to listen," he whispered. The next morning, disaster struck at Shaw Innovations. During a live demonstration with investors, the company's main prototype overheated and burst into sparks. The engineers panicked. Investors walked out. And Adrian Shaw, for the first time in years, felt his world slipping out of control. The board demanded answers. "We needed this," Adrian murmured, face pale. This product was supposed to save the quarter. One of the engineers swallowed hard. "Sir, the janitor mentioned the cooling flaw yesterday. We didn't take him seriously." Adrian froze. The janitor? He didn't want to believe it. But he remembered Daniel's quiet voice. His calm explanation. His certainty. What else did he say? Adrian asked quickly. The engineers exchanged guilty glances. "He seemed to really understand the technology," one said. "More than any of us expected." Adrian's heartbeat quickened. Without wasting another second, he rushed to the maintenance floor. When he found Daniel, the man was on his knees again, fixing a loose cabinet hinge. Sawdust covered his hands. His face looked exhausted from a sleepless night at the hospital. "You," Adrian said breathlessly. "I need your help." Daniel looked up, surprised. "Sir." Adrian swallowed his pride. "Tell me, how did you know about the flaw in the prototype?" Daniel hesitated. "I used to work in advanced systems engineering." "You were an engineer?" Daniel nodded. "A senior one. But my daughter needed me. I left everything behind." For the first time, Adrian saw the man, not the uniform, not the job title, not the status, but the father who sacrificed everything. "Can you fix the prototype?" Adrian asked quietly. Daniel took a deep breath. "Yes. But I'll need full access, and time." "You'll have anything you need," Adrian said. For the next 2 days, Daniel worked around the clock, guiding the engineers with precision and humility. He redesigned the cooling architecture, corrected wiring diagrams, and introduced an efficiency model none of them had ever seen before. The staff watched in awe. "Why was he cleaning floors?" one whispered. "He's a genius," another said. Adrian stood silently in the corner, watching Daniel transform his broken project, and the company's hopes, with nothing but chalk, wires, and extraordinary brilliance. On Friday morning, the system was ready for a second demonstration. This time, it worked flawlessly. Investors erupted in applause. Shaw Innovations was saved. And Daniel finally felt seen. After the presentation, Adrian called Daniel to his office. But this time, he didn't stand. He walked around his desk and met Daniel face to face with respect. "I owe you more than an apology," Adrian said softly. "I misjudged you." "Completely." Daniel shook his head. "You didn't know." "I should have known," Adrian replied. "And today, I want to fix that." He handed Daniel a contract, a senior engineering position, a salary that would cover Maya's medical needs, and flexible hours so he could care for her. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Adrian smiled. "And let me learn from you." Over the next months, Daniel became the heart of the company's innovation team. His ideas reshaped entire sectors. His humility inspired the staff. And Adrian, once arrogant and distant, transformed into a leader who valued every person in the building. One evening, as Daniel picked up Maya from school in his new car, she asked, "Daddy, why are you smiling?" "Because," he said, lifting her into his arms, "someone finally believed in me." She hugged him tightly. "I always believed in you." Daniel closed his eyes, holding her close. In that moment, he realized something powerful. Sometimes life pushes you down not to bury you, but to plant you where your light can finally be seen. And for Adrian, the lesson was just as deep. Greatness can be found in the most unexpected people, if you only stop long enough to look. Snow fell softly outside Shaw Innovations as Daniel stepped into his new office, an office with real walls, a real desk, and his name printed neatly on the glass door. It still felt unreal. Only months ago, he was sweeping hallways. Now he was leading a team that looked at him with admiration instead of pity. But even with all the progress, life had its own storms waiting ahead. That storm arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning, wearing a familiar face he never expected to see again. Daniel was drawing up plans for a new energy model when a soft knock came at the door. "Sir, someone here wants to meet you," the receptionist said. "Me?" Daniel frowned. "Who is it?" She didn't give her name. But she said, she knew you from before. Daniel's heartbeat stumbled. He stepped outside, and froze. Standing in the waiting area was a woman with tired eyes and a trembling smile. Her coat was old, her hands shaking from the cold. But he knew her instantly. "Lena," he whispered. She nodded slowly. "Hi, Daniel." The world seemed to pause. Lena Santiago, his former research partner, his closest friend, the woman who once supported all his wild inventions, had vanished from his life without explanation right after his wife died. She had been the only person who truly understood his mind. Then one day, she just disappeared. Seeing her now, pale and fragile, felt like seeing a ghost. "Why are you here?" Daniel asked quietly, leading her inside his office. Lena looked around at the shelves filled with charts and models. You finally did it, she said. You became what you were always meant to be. Daniel blinked in confusion. Lena, where did you go? You left everything. You didn't even say goodbye. Her eyes filled with emotion. I didn't have a choice. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folder, old, worn, edges bent. Daniel opened it slowly. Inside were blueprints, his blueprints. The ones that went missing 3 years ago. The ones he thought he had lost forever. What? How do you have these? He whispered. Lena took a shaky breath. Because someone tried to steal them, and I stopped them. Daniel's stomach tightened. Who? She hesitated. Your former employer. They knew you were vulnerable after your wife passed away. They planned to take credit for all your research. When I found out, I confronted them. Things got worse. They threatened me. I had to disappear. Daniel's hands trembled as he looked at her. All this time, he had believed she left him. All this time, she had been protecting him. Why come back now? Daniel asked gently. Lena's voice cracked. Because they found me again. And because I can't outrun them anymore. Daniel felt the room shift. His past, the part he tried to bury, was finally catching up. Before he could respond, Adrian Shaw entered the office. Daniel, we need to review. He stopped mid-sentence when he saw Lena. I'm sorry, I didn't know you had. Daniel gestured for him to come in. Adrian, this is Lena. She worked with me years ago. Anne, there's something you need to hear. In silence, Lena recounted everything, the betrayal, the theft attempt, the threats, the years of hiding. Adrian's face hardened with every word. Your former company, they're dangerous, he said. If they come after you, they'll come after this company too. Lena nodded. I'm afraid so. Daniel looked at Adrian. What do we do? Adrian didn't hesitate. We protect you. Both of you. And we expose them. Daniel shook his head. They won't stop. They'll do anything to claim the designs. Then we make sure they can't, Adrian said firmly. And just like that, 2 men who once stood on opposite sides, a CEO who judged too quickly and a janitor he underestimated, now stood united against a powerful enemy. But the challenges were far from over. The next day, Daniel received a call from Maya's school. Mr. Cruz, Maya had trouble breathing again. She's stable now, but the doctor says the flare-ups are becoming more frequent. Daniel rushed to the school, his heart pounding. Maya sat quietly in the nurse's room, holding her inhaler. Daddy, she whispered. Is everything okay? You look scared. He forced a smile. I'm fine, sweetheart. I just need you to get better. At home that night, as he watched her sleep, his mind felt like it was splitting. On one side, a dangerous corporate threat. On the other, his daughter's worsening health. In the middle, a past he didn't choose, and a future he was terrified of losing. But life didn't slow down for anyone. The next morning, Adrian called him urgently. Daniel, you need to come to the lab, Adrian said. Now. When Daniel arrived, he found Adrian standing beside an empty glass case. The new prototype was gone. Stolen. A chill swept through Daniel. Lena's voice echoed behind him. They found us. Daniel stared at the empty pedestal, his fists clenching. Everything he worked for. Everything he rebuilt. Everything he risked, was now in the hands of the people who once tried to ruin his life. Adrian turned to him, fear and determination battling in his eyes. We're not letting them win this time, he said. Not again. This isn't just your fight anymore. It's ours. Daniel looked at Lena. Then at Adrian. And for the first time since he lost his wife, he didn't feel alone. He straightened his shoulders. Then let's get it back, Daniel said. His voice was calm. Resolute. A man who had endured loss, humiliation, poverty, and fear, but still stood unbroken. This time, he wasn't just fighting for his invention. He was fighting for his daughter. For Lena. For the people who finally believed in him. And for the truth.